Welcome to another video here at TrainFX. If you don't know who I am, my name is Josh, aka the Homie Fletcher, owner of the TrainFX Discord community group, where I send my personal trades and we trade as a community to really help and uplift each other with our trading journeys, where we could just, get the best ideas, pull it together, and really get a better, deeper understanding of Forex and Forex trading, especially with the now given times. Forex trading has become rather difficult in the way that we would have traded previously. The past 2-3 years compared to now is completely different, and the strategies that we have to implement has been somewhat modified in order to serve today's market. Okay, so what would have worked previously isn't something that will work right now, given the current times that we are in. We had COVID, the whole pandemic, and now we have the Russia-Ukraine situation, which is the real driving factor of the markets right now. It is what market makers, investors, big banks are all paying attention to right now, influencing currency pricing and all of that stuff, right? So with that being said, what this video is about is one of the ways that you could improve your trading as a Forex beginner, someone that is new to the space. All right, even though that this strategy may not be the best for today's market, it is what you can build on. It is the foundation that you could, start understanding right now in order to build on your Forex trading. And as your journey progresses, you can modify this to suit your needs when you are coming into today's market and looking forward to it. Okay, so started off, what we're doing today is we're going to talk about support and resistance, trading with the trend. All right, and these are the main two factors that a lot of Forex traders, even the big professionals that you see on Wall Street and all of these other big banks, would do, right? They trade using support resistance. You may hear some people saying supply demand, banking zones, and all that other stuff, right? But it comes down to the same thing: support and resistance, areas where price has a hard time passing or going against, right? So one of the ways that you could think about it is that support is basically, right, this right here, support, that's basically like your flooring, right? If you're in a house, you have your flooring, this is your support level, right? When you put pressure down on this level, you expect it to hold. So this is what your support level is in Forex, right? Once this level is broken, and that means once price is going to the downside, right? So once price is broken, one price breaks to the downside, that means the support is now broken, and we could continue to see a continuation lower, right? So this is our support here. Support gets broken and we get a continuation lower. Vice versa, for if it's something like, let me just erase all this. If it's something like your resistance, right? And your resistance is basically your ceiling, right? So this is the top where price pushes higher, right? And tries to push past. Once we do get that push past resistance, right, we expect to see a continuation moving upwards. And this would be the markets from previously, something that we would have expected to see, when things were a little bit less challenging and a little bit less complicated than it is now. And that is how, for the majority of traders that now enter the Forex market, would trade using support and resistance. Now, there are some things that you need to know when you're doing support and resistance trading: when to enter, how to find the support, how to find the resistance, how to know the significance of that level, and therefore when you're going to place a trade, what to look for specifically, which we call confluences, right? So confluences this just basically means other things that go into hand to basically build your bias, right? So when you build your bias, when you build a bias, you want to have multiple confluences, right? So you want to have multiple of this, meaning there may be one or more things that agree with each other, right, for you to build your bias. So if we're going to take a buy, right, we're taking a buy on any currency, meaning that we expect price to go up. We want multiple confluences to, you know, basically tell us, all right, this buy is justified. Vice versa, for if we take a sell, right, if we take a sell, meaning that we're expecting to see price go down, we also want multiple confluences for that, right? So we use the support and resistance as one of our confluences, right? Knowing when price reaches a support or knowing when it reaches resistance, right? And once we see that level being broke or maintained, we use that as one of our confluences along with some other stuff that we will talk and discuss about in other videos to come, right? So I'm not trying to bombard you with too much information right now. This is just for simple Forex beginners, people that, you know, get into the space, get into the niche, and want to know a little bit more about, okay, so I want to trade, I want to learn how to trade, but exactly how do I go about it? And this is what this video is about, right? So again, just talking about the support and resistance. Support and resistance, right? And we will look at a chart example when we go through this. But like I said, if we're looking at price, right, we're looking at a chart, we see that, okay, this chart here, for example, this is going up, right? We see that this is going up. We can see clearly we have some points here. This is 1 point, this is 1 point, right? We could draw a line going across these points here, right? And this line at the beginning of this move here would have been a resistance, right? So this would have been a resistance. Why is it a resistance? Well, you can see at the beginning of the move, price reached this area right here and then rejected, right? So when we have this sort of rejection, it means for whatever reason, right, price is having a hard time, or some complications to push past this level, right? Sometimes we may see it as, you know, being represented like this. Other times we may see price actually interact with that level multiple times. So you might see something like this, might see something like this, right? Then a push up above, and then some interaction with it again, and then a continuation move up, right? And for the most part, this is how a chart would really look like most of the times, right? So this is how we mark our supports and resistance, or how we know when to actually look at an area as a support or resistance. Once we have an interaction with it, price pulls back, right? So we mark this as a level of some importance, or a level that could have some importance, right? So this was a ceiling where price had a hard time pushing past, it rejected, so it is a resistance. Price pushed up, came back down, retested it, right? So price came back to that level. I was like, okay, I wonder if this new support, this new grounding, right, this new foundation can hold my weight, basically, at this level for me to continue moving higher, right? So we pushed past this level. Firstly, we came back and price just bouncing, right? We're bouncing on this level. We're testing the strength, making sure that it has enough support, right, for us to continue moving higher. And you can see this is where the terminology came about, right? Right here again, this is where we'll know that there's more significance of this resistance area, because we had multiple retests of that area, right? So price pushed up into that area once, rejected, we came back again. So we're looking like, okay, at this point, I'm trying to break past this level, right? Price is trying to break past. We're trying to push higher, right? We're looking to push higher, right? But we're running into resistance. Something is not allowing us to continue to move higher at this point, right? So this is where we'll mark this as a resistance level as well, right? So once we do get a push past that level, we understand that this has some significance, and price comes back to retest the support, right? So we're looking to see, can we hold this level to continue to move higher, right? And this is how we get supports and resistance. So the same way that we note this is the same way that we can note for a fact. Let me just move down here. When it comes to support, right? We have the price moving up. Then we have 1, 2, retest, then a continuation, right? This is another way that a chart could look like. As you can see, we have multiple levels here, one here, and even one right here. Right? And this is how charts could also look like as well. We could have multiple support and resistance within the larger move, right? And again, we'll explain all of this as we go to the charts and we look at live examples of the support and resistance levels, right? But yeah, this is one of the ways that the price could actually look like as well. So as price continue moving on, right? Something to note about the markets is we don't have clear straight movements, right? For the most part, on the larger time frames, on the larger, bigger picture, we do see a clear movement, whether it's in an upward or downward direction. But in between those movements, we have these things called pullbacks, right? And these are areas within the market where price pulls back to an area to retest. And that's how we get these retest areas of support and resistance, like this right here, and even this, right? So all of that retest in the upward structure that we are seeing, right? So we're seeing price pushed up. Right here is a resistance. We noted that price pushed higher, rejected from this area right here again. So this is another resistance within that move. We came back, we retested this area, right? So this is a pullback, and we retested this area right here as a support. So this is the support right here, right? Price pushed higher, we came back, we retested this area. As you can see, this was a resistance. We pushed higher, we came back here, tested our support again, had a push higher again, tested our support. So we had 3 times that we saw a support being formed and tested, right? Support level here and a support level here. And you can see market structure really follows along these sort of dynamics. It's something that you see happening a lot of time, a lot of recurrence that we do see is this support resistance market structure, right? In any market condition, you could almost always see the support or resistance unless you're in a range or there's some, some fundamental data that's really affecting price movement heavily. Then sometimes we could completely see this ignore of structure and just full on continuations, right? So an example of that would be something like, okay, if we're looking at buy still, right? We have support, right? Multiple retest, price pushes higher, retest again. Sometimes we might see a push even higher, right? A slight retest and then a continuation higher, right? So this is something as well that we could possibly see. So you can see we have these structures right here, but at this point, as price pushed higher, we had something driving the price action, causing price to continue with that momentum, right? And this is one of the things that you need to note as well as a trader. But again, we'll discuss that in more videos to come. I don't want to bombard you with too much information, but this is how also a price structure that you could see in the charts as well. And it's not uncommon. It happens mostly in times of when we do have big news events released. Sometimes it may be interest rate decisions, whether we see something way above our expectancy. If we do see a rise in interest rates, let's say from 0.25 to maybe 0.75, which is a huge increase, and interest rates raising is something very bullish for a currency. So we could see movement like this, where price continues moving upwards in one direction, right? So this is what we'll call a momentum continuation. And it just basically means that, all right, we saw some bullish structure as price was continuing on. We had that bullishness step in, right? Price pushed upwards, and then we just continued with that bullish momentum, right? So it's a momentum continuation. That's what I like to call it. There may be other ways, ways to call it as well, but I like to call it a momentum continuation trade, right? This is something you could also trade as well, but you need to know how to do it in order to make the most of it, right? And if we're talking sells, right, we're looking at the opposite direction. It's the same thing, right? So we understand what support and resistance is. A lot of people like to stress these videos and really make it more than it seems, but it's really one of the easiest, simplest ways to understand market structure when trading Forex, right? If we're looking at sells, let's say we're looking at a pair, AUD, JPY, right? And we're looking at a trade that's going to the downside, right? So we see price just forming downwards, right? We had these multiple retests, a pullback here, and then a continuation move downwards, right? So we have this level right here, another level right here, another level right here. So we could see these clear market structures. Price comes down, retest this area, pulls back, retest here, pulls back, retest, 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 pushes down, retest, and so forth, right? So again, we note this support level being broken, right? So this is if we're going to the downside. So price is testing this flooring, right? So we're testing the ground here. We pushed up a little bit, but then boom, we broke past, right? So we basically sank a level down, right? And now we're trying to jump up. Like, let's just say, for example case, if you ever been to a house party or something like that, you may have seen videos, memes, and stuff like that. Just for example case, where people may be in a party and they're jumping, they're, parading around inside the house, and the flooring just gives away, right? It cracks, right? So, they're in a party and the board just cracks and they fall through, right? So you fall through the ground and everyone just ends up just going down, right? So that's basically what happens with price. We're jumping, we're jumping, we're jumping from this area of support, right? And then price just breaks, right? This area just breaks and we fall through. And that's basically what happens here. So we come to this area, we're jumping, right? We reach into this resistance. Basically, we're hitting our heads against this area. We're jumping from this area right here of support. And then we just break past, right? So we broke to the downside and we end up going down, right? To another support level or another level where we may try to jump up from, right? So we jump multiple times, then boom, we broke past, right? So that's basically what's happening with price when we do look at sells and looking at the momentum going to the downside. So with this, right, we mark these multiple supports and the support level being broken for a possible trade, right? So we have a continuation with a downward momentum. So you have a downward trend, meaning price is heading to the downside. That's what we could clearly see here. It's clearly stipulated price is going to the downside, right? So with that being said, we have a downward trend, we're seeing these multiple supports being broken. So we're looking for a possible trade. Either we could enter right here on the break of that support, or even on the retest of the resistance level, right, for continuation move downwards. So hopefully that's a little, that helps you understand basically what support and resistance are. Right? So let's just look at the chart. I will come back to this where I can show you more examples of some price action movements. Let's look at the charts, right? So we're going to look at this pair. This is GBP card, right? So with the GBP card, let me just pull out my drawing tool here. So we're looking at these levels, right? If we're looking overall, we could see this upward movement, right? We could see that price. So you can see price is clearly moving to the upside. That is something that we could stipulate, right? So with that being said, we're now looking at these areas right here, right? So with that being said, we're now looking at these areas. So one of the things that I would note in this, as we continue with this momentum going upwards, we see this level right here. This is a support level. You see that this here is a support level, right? As price continue moving upwards, we could clearly see that this here is a support level. Price has come into this level right here, and we clearly retested it. We marked it as a zone of importance, right? So price came here, we tested multiple times, looking closer, right? We do have it right here as well, where price pushed up previously, and we got that continuation move upwards. Again, look at it right here, price came up, we got a rejection right here. So right, we got rejections right here, so we mark this as a level of importance. Price clearly pushed past that level, came back right here, retested it slightly, right? So we looked at this zone for a possible retest, right? We kind of got that retest right into the zone, right? Right at the peak of the zone, price pushed higher. So at this point, what we'll be looking at is, okay, if price is going to continue moving higher, we want to see a push past this new resistance created, right? But as you can see, price pulled back, we broke this previous support, right? We came back up here, but then as you can see, we started clearly trending down a little bit, right? So price started forming lows right here. Instead of continuing upwards, we start seeing price breaking some structure and heading to the downside, right? So we saw that buying momentum actually fade a little bit. And that is one of the things that we can note here when we're doing our trades, right? So this level is what we'll be looking at, right? And we can see that price just started to break lower. So if I'm looking to take a trade, right, especially with the momentum that we are currently seeing fading from the market. So overall, we had these areas right here. Price started pushing a little bit to the downside. We got this momentum kind of changing right at this point, and price just kind of bouncing up and between these areas, right? So we see price just bouncing around this area as stipulated before, right? If we're in a buying position, right? So we see that price is actually pushing higher, right? And reach this point where we have this sort of double retest, right? And then price starts forming market structure going to the downside like this. What I'll be looking for is for a break of this support level right here, right? So I will place a trade right around this area, right? Putting my stops above that and my targets below, right? So a trade I will take to the downside as the momentum looks like it's changing, is right into the support, put my stop loss above reasonable levels for a continuation move downwards, right? And this is like trading support resistance, like so simple, so easy. And let's see what price does, right? So if we're just looking here, we can see that price started bouncing, right? Keeping into that area, then boom, we had this break right here. So we had a clean break right here. If we wanted, we could have entered the trade, short position, something like this, keeping it simple, a 1 to 2, and let's just see if we'll get that, right? Price push lower, price is pushing, and we got that. That would have been a nice winning trade, right? And we set our targets at reasonable levels. So one of the things to note here as well with trading support and resistance, we could use our last support that we have, right, as our target levels, right? So this could have been a target level right here, and even lower right here. As we look to the far left, we do have these levels right here being some significant levels, right? And this would have been a pretty nice trade to get along with. Now, the next possible target we would look at is, all right, price just broke this area to the downside, so I'm going to look at this area right here, right? I will be looking at this area right here for a possible sell continuation. Why? Because we have this downward momentum, this downward direction now being displayed. We had multiple retests of that level. So if we're just looking, price retested here into the downtrend, right? And we have more rejections from that level as well right here. So one of the things that I would do is just wait to see whether this level is maintained at this point, and we'll be looking at this level for possible continuation because we had those multiple rejections. Now let's see what happens. Is price going to continue? Pushed up a little bit. Overall, we're still looking a little bearish. Price pushes up, and then we start heading down a little bit. We start forming some support right here at this point, right? So this would have been a nice area to actually look out for because we had this support formation right here, right? Price retested again, price pulled up, we came back here, retested, and we're continuing the move up, right? So we could have looked at this area for some possible buy-in or maybe even sell continuation if we saw a break of that area. As you see, price continue heading up. And this is one of the things that I talk about. Sometimes we may have news release coming out as well that may affect the price action or movement of price. As you can see, we had this area right here, this area right here, right here, right? So price pushed against these resistance, right? And then we had this just overall bullish momentum continuing, right? And this is something that happens in the markets every now and then. We can't really prepare ourselves for that. We could actually prepare ourselves for that, given what the news event may be. If it's something that we could, prepare beforehand for a move like this, it is possible, unless it's something that just spontaneously happens, right? Such as, for example, the Russia-Ukraine situation with the Russian invasion. That was kind of spontaneous, and the markets reacted at the moment to that news. So that wasn't something we could have prepared for beforehand, right? So it's just, something to note as well. But this is just how support and resistance do work. So at this point, we would have changed our bias from the sell continuations because we had a break to the upside right here. So we're seeing this bullish momentum kind of kick back in. Price retested right here. We maintained this. Price pulled up even higher. We came back right here. A rejection from that level showing, okay, this support is kind of holding, right? So we're going to see if we have a continuation move higher. And then within this area right here, we had multiple supports just being formed, right? And this is what I talked about as well. Sometimes we may be in just one overall big movement, but a lower time frame, we do have those supports being formed, market structure being formed in between, right? So price held the support. We could have taken a buy right on the second retest right here, right? After we saw the third retest, after we saw 1 and 2 being held, right? On the third one, could have taken a buy right there, and then price continued moving even higher, right? So let's just play this out. We can see that price is just starting to continue, right? So we form a sort of support here, another one here, and price started to continue moving a little bit higher there, right? So that's basically it, right? Support and resistance trading. Just remove the drawings, right? So we note that, all right, we're going with the continuation of this bullish momentum. We reach an all-time high right around this area. price starting to form lower here. We got a break below this area right here, right? So we got a break of this sort of support right here. We could look for possible sells. We could look for price to kind of go down and take a sell right around here and put in our stops right above this level possibly, right? So let's see what happens. See, price pulled to that level, but then we started pulling down, right? So this is one of the things that you need to know, how the market significance level, right? So we could have put a stop loss right here into that area, or even higher, just noting the last high that price made in that downward movement was right here, right? So we could have put our stops either here or right here, but you see we do have that continuation of that downward momentum, right? So we saw that price formation actually shifting a little bit, going to the downside. And this is something that you'll get as you continue with your trading progress. You'll be able to read the market structure and movement a little bit more clearly using simple support and resistance in your trading, right? And this could be the fundamental building block on which you stand on, the foundation for your trading and your trading career. Starting off with support and resistance, simple. A lot of people like using a lot of indicators, the MAC, Bollinger Bands, RSI, all of that, but it's unnecessary, right? Using support and resistance is a simple way to understand market structure and help you as an introduction in your trading journey, right, guys? So I want to leave it off as here. Don't want to bombard you too much information. This video was already longer than expected. That's it for this. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, as well as subscribe. Let's get that YouTube algorithm working. Let more people, come in, see what we got to offer here at TrainFX. Please click the link in the description, right, to join the Discord group if you want to see my trades, some of my personal trades. I do have a VIP section. We aim for 5% and free, and above that in the VIP, so you could come see how I trade, get a little bit of insight about what I do, how I trade now compared to how I trade before, and really progress in your own trading journey. So that's it for this video, guys. See you in the next one. Peace.